country was in Facebook, I believe its status is, I need help, I need you right now. There are two types of youth. Those who are politically involved and those who aren't. There are those who lack concern and just you don't care. Because when you're young, you tend to think more about yourself than about other people. Secondly, there is this general perception of distrust in the government.
Precisely because of the kind of formation they receive at home. Their parents don't trust the government, then you can't blame them if they grow up not trusting the government at all, not cooperating with the government. There's this grave problem of Filipinos having a very parochial, very individualistic, very small town mindset wherein you are only concerned with your career, with your family, with yourself.
If you want to put it in common parlance, it's simply not their thing. Because they don't feel the effects of poverty, of corruption, of theft.
Mental na tayo mga atinista who are more or less financially secure tayo.
Like what Dr. Jose Rizal said, we are the future of this country. It may be cliche, but it's true. Like it or not, we'll grow older. And as we grow older, we'll have to bear the responsibility of developing this country. They are the future stakeholders. They will be the ones most affected by the changes of the day and of course the changes of tomorrow. Like for example, if the president doesn't do a good job, who will be affected? Of course the youth. And I think the youth has the more power because they have the more push. They have the more drive for political change.
Kesa kasi pag pinaabot man tanda, parang masyadong silang stained ng mangyayari sa kanila. Yung mga magagawa nila baka part of the system na or nakain na sila sa system.
Some people would think that responsible citizenship could mean posting a rant against the government on Facebook as a status, but that's not responsible citizenship.
And there's such a thing called slacktivism, where people just like things on Facebook or retweet things and they think that they're being socially or politically aware, and that's not really doing anything.
You will ask me to give a grade to youth involvement, it's very low, probably below passing in fact. But the reality is a lot of the youth today, the majority of the political base does not have youth involvement.
Simply because the private sector, in particular the middle class, do not participate. They're just too caught up with their world of work, school, home, car, mall.
Most of the youth, they don't feel it. They don't care. What they care about is what's their status on Facebook. If their cakes are done in some game.
That even if the government already has so many projects, is already trying to reach out, well, you don't care. You simply don't care.
What do politicians prioritize? They prioritize votes come election time. So I think the youth must be, first and foremost, active in elections. Active in getting people to vote for who they think are right for the positions in government. The youth must be active in forming a constituency that actually cares about what the politicians are saying, about what the politicians plan to do.
I was given the privilege to actually vote this 2010 elections, and part of it is a commitment that I will own up to the decision I made. I voted for this president. I did not vote for this vice president, but I have to realize that I am part of this democratic system, and the decisions that Noynoy has to make affects me. As he said, ako ang boss niya, so I have to take that seriously.
In the Ateneo, we try to promote this program called the Blue Vote. We try to get students to at least vote in their specific schools. I think that's a good way to at least spark something about the electoral process, at least to motivate students to at least vote for their next upcoming presidents and their vice presidents.
And I don't think it's any much different with government. If the government is there to support the youth, to really encourage the youth to participate in its governance, it has to look at what the views, the opinions, the perceptions, and the dreams of the youth are. Not just what parents or some other old people would impose. To begin this dialogue, the youth has to try to trust government that it will listen to the voice of the youth. At the same time that the government has to take seriously what the youth think of in the problems of the country.
I think the government, for the most part, should listen. There was a case before wherein I think people blamed the president for something, and they use a lot of various media to air their concerns. They use Facebook, they use Twitter, and other things. The government, instead of reacting to it positively, reacted to it negatively by prohibiting the posting of responses. I think that's wrong.
If they care about Facebook, if they care about parties, if they care about their text messaging, the government has to take an extra step to understand the underlying cultural values that prevent the youth from participating in governance.
Medyo bata-bata naman si Noynoy na nagigets niya kung ano ang kahulugan ng internet sa buhay ng Generation Y.
It's a small thing, give voice, parang pakinggan lang yung mga bata, pakinggan lang yung kabataan. Kasi may stigma na pag bata, wala pang alam, wala pang experience. Sana marinig mo rin sila sa party lists. Sana may representative sa Senate ng mga kabataan na bilang na bilang.
The giving back aspect is not really there. So I think that's one thing that the government needs to work on, like to help empower the youth to want to give back to the country.
Not only generally by saying we love the youth, but by delegating to them some roles. Like for example, community organizing. It doesn't have to be SK. It just has to be a simple, like an ad hoc organization which will organize the community to make it like a real community. Because as we know, the youth has the most time to spare for these things.
There are just so many things as to how the young of the Philippines could help its country progress.
You can't really make the excuse na nag-aaral pa ako, I can't do anything. Kasi outside the classroom, we do so many things.
You should try to see in their studies the opportunity to excel not simply as an Atenean or a Lasalite or as a UP student, but actually as a Filipino.
Madali siyang sabihin pero mahirap siyang gawin. Like,
for me, to be able to be a good Filipino youth, you must be passionate about an advocacy. To infuse that advocacy with your Filipino background, with your experiences as a Filipino. For example, I consider myself a cultural advocate and a cultural essayist. I'd like to believe I help our tourism agencies by bringing tourists to museums. It takes talent, it takes skill.
As a photographer, I take images of daily life, people on the street, mga, reality as it is. So the youth will know how life it is out there.
I will have to think about the issues every day because I'm part of this country. It's an ownership that what might happen to some people in this country or the government decisions are really affecting at a certain level, and I really have to care about it.
Kumilos kayo sapagkat walang ibang kikilos para sa inyo.
This is a message to the youth. I think this is our time and this is our responsibility to at least do something for the country. It's our turn.